Because dude, like I've been in this industry long enough, man. I've failed on loads. I've lost customers. I've had damaged freight before. I've had stolen loads before. I've had drivers go MIA before. I've had all that happen.
They probably get a lot of different messages from a lot of different people all saying the same thing, and they just look at it as spam. So
I jumped on there, and then somebody chimed in. They're like, "Oh, you should automate your emails and automate that." I'm like, "Bro, no." I know that there's automation services out there. All right.
Shipping manager to here, who's the shipping manager to there, who handles this, who handles that. It was great. But then I just don't find it as a suitable platform for our industry. People will say otherwise, people will say this, people will say that.
I want to dominate. All right. Like at the end of the day, Yusuf, I want to dominate, and I want to show my customers, like my goal is I want them to question, like, shit, are these guys really like this, or is this just because this is the first time with them? And I want to deliver that on every single shipment, because my goal is after the first one, they're gonna be like, damn, why aren't our other providers communicating like this? Buy our fifth load with them. I want them to be like, why are we not giving these guys everything? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Freight Coach. My name is Chris Jolly. I am your host, and I am the Freight Coach. Before we jump into the episode, as always, thank you guys so much for coming out and listening to this podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my weekday live show, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. I do have one small favor to ask. I know you will, but if you get value in what you hear today and you're not subscribed to the show, subscribe to you guys, share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. All right, I got a very special guest for you guys here today. I always enjoy speaking with other entrepreneurs and individuals who are out there trying to create something from nothing. It's a different caliber of person that goes out there and relentlessly pursues what they want. And he's also an agent at SPI Logistics with me as well. And we're celebrated the rendezvous event, and his office is one of the best performing ones out there. And I truly believe success leaves clues. So with that being said, I have Yusuf Zigar on the show with me today to break everything down. So Yusuf, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, and it's my pleasure to actually be on with you, and join you.
No, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's one of those things where, when you go out there, and because with the agent model, for example, I wasn't entirely familiar with it. Like I had heard of it in the past, but when I had met Mike and James a couple of years ago, and they came on as advertisers of mine, and then I really got to learn the agency model as a whole. I'm like, this is such a great opportunity for people to go out there and not have a lot of the financial risk and like the insurance risk that comes along with running a business, right? Because those are those costs that a lot of people aren't even aware of at that time.
Absolutely. We've been in freight now logistics for, I would say, almost 15 years. It's myself and my brother, and we have a team that works with us as well. My younger brother, and then a couple other guys. But when we came on to SPI, we originally were with Landstar for a long time. But when we came on with SPI, it was a decision of either starting our own little brokerage and dealing with all those risks and those high end costs, or going with an established partner. And Joe and Mike and the crew and James and everyone you said made it pretty easy for us to make that decision.
So what's it been like? Like what was it that you and your brother said, let's just go out on our own. Let's go try this out and try and make this.
Yeah. Well, we just come from a sales background, life experience. I mean, my degree's in finance, and to be honest, I was never really interested in finance. It's nice to have that in the background, but we just have always been go-getters from when we were younger. Our father's been an insurance broker for years and years and years, so we saw him hustle and grind. And when it was time for us to get going, we were just like, let's just give this a shot. Obviously, it took some training and working with great people that have taught us the way. And my brother has some mentors. He's actually in the business longer than me, and he had some mentors along the way, and helped them get familiar with the industry. And then he taught me to get familiar with the industry. And then it was, we're really blessed with um, starting at a time where it was a lot easier to acquire business and acquire customers, and we just maintained the relationship building as much as possible, and our business grew. But starting off, yeah, absolutely, it's harder to get going, but you got to make that commitment, you got to make that effort, and you got to be ready and willing to grind, like you said.
So what's been the main difference? Because you just mentioned that it was a lot different times for customer
Yeah.
acquisition. And, because it's
Ab-
like we started out back in realistically, it's safe to say January of 2023 is when we fully like went and started going after it. And I knew it was going to be tough going in, especially coming after what the market was, but I didn't want to start in an easier market because I know that a lot of those relationships would be false, right? Like they're going to be short term and everything else. And I wanted to position myself to where when things started to change and when a lot of things started to filter out, that I was going to be kind of the last man standing because I've been in this industry for a while and I knew it was going to be challenging, but I mean, to be fully transparent, I didn't think it was going to be the way it is out there from a business development standpoint. Like I've personally never experienced this before.
Well, see, I've seen ups and downs, so I've been able to see, ebbs and flows over the 15 years that we've been in the business. But back then, it was all about establishing a relationship, and people just wanted to work with people that they trusted,
Mhm.
and they wanted to make sure that the stuff that they were giving to brokers was in the right hands, was being handled properly, and that the communication was always there. I'm big on communication. We spoke about this earlier. It's so important to have the best communication when it comes to your shippers. When things are going good, you tell them, hey, your shipment's in transit, this is happening, blah blah blah, have full transparency. Something's going wrong, you also let them know. But it was all about relationships at the time. Yes, technology was there at the time, but it wasn't like the technology that's in place now. So now it's shippers are looking for all different types of technology, and then you have a lot more competition. You have other brokers, other carriers, and people willing to do things for so much cheaper just to get their foot in the door. And when you've been in this business for long enough, not to quote certain types of freight, not to quote, you know, you want sustainable business. You don't want to just get in there and quote stuff low and then get your foot in the door and then not be able to produce. I've just always been from the mindset is you work as hard as you can, you grind, you grind, you grind, and you take the business you can get and try to have sustainable business. I don't believe in short-term success. I believe everything has to be built for long-term success. And it was like you said, back then people were looking for better relationships, better trust. Now more things have become more about dollars and cents and who can do what for what price. And but eventually it'll shift back. It shifts back all the time. Service becomes important to people.
No, exactly. And I think like a lot of people, because I actually talk about this a lot too, Yusuf, is I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are tending to forget how much a lot of these shippers' budgets were blown out of the water these last couple of years, and
Yeah.
they're gonna look to recoup, right? Because that's
Yeah.
just how the real world works, right? Like you, you're not gonna have people who
Well,
blow their budget by 80% and then
yeah.
not look to recoup at some point.
COVID killed a lot of businesses. They were overspending on everything, overspending on shipments, overspending on cost of goods. But transportation was a big chunk of that, and even the big guys, they had to spend so much more than they had to, and then the past that's what caused inflation and continue to cause inflation. But eventually down the line, which we're already seeing it as transportation costs have gone way down, and it's all about relationships and making sure that you handle things the right way.
Yeah, I think like in today's time, and I learned this from an entrepreneur group that I'm involved in. Is it's like A, control your controllables, but B, you got to focus on today. And I know I've made the, and I think everybody goes through this. Yusuf, is it's like you think like when you get onboarded with somebody, you're like, oh, I'm going to make so much money here. I'm going to
Yeah.
do this. Everything's going to be perfect. And I try even to this day, man, because I mean, you get it, right? Like you only
Yeah.
eat if you kill, just like
Yeah.
I only eat if I kill.
Yeah.
And but I'm also trying to bring it into that one truck at a time, one shipment at a time, because everything seems great on paper, right? Like, hey, they got all this volume, they have this, but you got to find out like how do customers operate? And then I think like if you just focus on making sure you perform your absolute best on this opportunity, that's what's going to set you up for your next opportunity that you're going to get. It's got to be earned.
Absolutely. Yeah, grinding and working hard and making sure you do the best of a job on, like you said, on a load to load basis is important. But also you have to, understand, like you said, you onboard a customer, you get them going, you think things are going great. I can't tell you how many times we've added customers and think, oh wow, this is amazing. And then, the sudden shift in things, whether it's you know, their shipping frequency or, just all different types of reasons. Things are constantly changing and you have to be on top of that. So that's why you do have to constantly be looking to sell, and constantly be looking for new opportunities and knock down as many doors as you can and make as many calls as you can because you never know what's going to stick around.
Yeah.
Customers change all the time. One of my best customers I was dealing with for a long time, constant business on a regular basis, daily loads, weekly loads, we were doing them. They got acquired by a big multinational company and that just killed me, like that. Basically they said, we're not going to be using any of your transportation companies. We're going to start using
Yeah.
our own transportation companies. And things like that happen. So you have to prepare for that because that could happen at any time.
I've had that happen to me too, man. And it's just like, and this might come off wrong, but my intentions are not how it might sound. This is why I think like when you're dealing with customers and shippers is you can't fall in love with people. You can respect them, you can appreciate the business, but
Mhm.
it's a business at the end of the day. And you can, it's even in relationships too, man. How many people that you had in your life, whether it was your, a best friend at the time or a girlfriend or a boyfriend you thought was going to be with you forever, and then life happened, right? So it's like I think like as I get older, I'm trying to like be personable with people, focus on the relationship, but also like prepare myself in the event of like, hey, these guys might not be around in a year. And as long as I do everything that I can in my power in these moments, I'll be able to sleep at night, right? Like I'll be able to go home and I'll be able to lay down in bed and be like, well, fuck, that sucked, but I did everything in my power. I controlled my controllables in that moment because you're right, man. You don't know if they're going to get acquired. You don't know if a new transportation manager is going to come in and shuffle in all of their old providers or new providers.
Yeah.
That looks like you can't control that.
Yeah, Mike says it all the time. Most important thing when you're dealing with the customers is try to get in as deep as possible, not just a relationship with one person. Try to get in a relationship with different people on different levels, either all different areas, even if they're not in transportation. Maintain those roots of who you are, what you do, what you provide, make yourself invaluable to the customer, but also at the same time understand that they're not your only customer. Like you can't be a one-trick pony. You got to have multiple options, multiple different customers that you're dealing with at one time. Even if one's slow, the other one picks up. Like, this business is constantly changing. There's always different variables, and we have to be on top of that as freight brokers. It's not an easy job. We don't wake up in the morning and say we have X amount of dollars to make. It's like every day is a grind. What are you going to make today? What are you going to do today? It depends on how the relationships you've built and what you've established. So,
Yeah, I think like that's it's a good outlook, excuse me, on it is it's like I because like I look at it now from a business development standpoint, man, where it's just like it's a whole new style of selling that's out there. It's a you can get on like because we've onboarded plenty of shippers, but it doesn't mean that we've grown with them,
yeah.
right? Like that doesn't mean it's almost like it's two sales cycles now. It's the first sales cycle to get them onboarded, and then it's the second sales cycle to
Use you.
to actually use you. And
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking at that is like, I think that the more people are talking about um like automating the sales and doing that. Like, dude, I personally think the most effective way that I've been able to develop business here over the last 18 months or 16 months or however long it's been, old cold calling. That's
Yeah,
it. That's the most effective way is and I'm saying it's working now
yeah,
at a higher level because nobody's doing it. Everybody's looking to automate, send a DM, send an email, and and that because that's kind of what we did. I fell into that trap my first year of soliciting business is I went to that because I thought like, oh, well, if ever like I'll do that. And then I'm like, we haven't, it was late last year. It was like, it was November, December, January, and February. I didn't get one reply. I didn't get one response. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I got bills to pay just like everybody else. And I'm like, we got to switch it up. I gotta do something different. So I just started making a couple of cold calls and I'm like, whoa, why are you guys so receptive to this? This is kind of odd. And then I
yeah,
started going like, hey, can I just show up? Can I just stop by and introduce myself? And the amount, and again, this isn't, I don't want to make this sound like everybody's like, yeah, come on by. But it was way more reception to that than an email. And
yeah,
when I started doing that, I was like, damn, this is different now. And again, I think like, and like we were saying about what Mike says, about build that relationship up with everybody. I want to make sure that everybody inside of that building that I come in contact with, I introduce myself to. Hi, I'm Chris.
yeah,
Hi, I'm Chris. Hi, I'm Chris. And just
yeah.
doing anything to try and develop this business any different.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm from the old school mentality. I might be a younger guy, but I'm the same way. Like, I think picking up a phone is so important. And even for everything, like, yeah, like, let's put it this way. If you're on, I had to get off of LinkedIn because it just drove me nuts for a while. So now I'm not on it at all. But like, you get all these different people DMing you and all these different people sending you a message. 90% of it, you're like, well, why would I want to do that? Or why would I? So you got to also put yourselves in their shoes, these shippers and these other receivers and all these other customers. They probably get a lot of different messages from a lot of different people all saying the same thing, and they
Yeah.
just look at it as spam. So, picking up a phone, trying to build a relationship, trying to build trust, that's more important. And like you said, go and visit them and go and see them. It's a great way to work.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. I look at so much of this, and I'm right there with you on LinkedIn, dude.
Yeah,
As somebody who is on seemingly on social media a lot, it is
yeah,
nauseating out there. I
yeah,
don't know if most of the people who are posting are actually working, like
yeah.
honestly, because I'm like, where are you getting this advice? Like, where is this practical application and feedback that you're getting? Because
Yeah.
I've tried that and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I was using LinkedIn for a while for connections, okay? And I think it's a good way to connect the dots and if you see who's the shipping manager to here, who's the shipping manager to there, who handles this, who handles that. It was great. But then I just don't find it as a suitable platform for our industry. People will say otherwise, people will say this, people will say that.
Yeah.
I just think that our industry is um, so keen on talking to a live person, dealing with the person. They want to automate. They're not in the right, sphere. I don't think.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that a lot of individuals out there are, pushing automate. I mean, dude, I had a guy today on my live show, because I was quoting a load live on the show because that's the thing. If a customer
Yeah,
comes in, I always pause my live stream. I'm like, sorry guys, where else do you find an active freight broker who's talking about the industry and bidding on
gotta do what you gotta
that?
do.
Yeah, so I jumped on there and then somebody chimed in. They're like, "Oh, you should automate your emails and automate that." I'm like, "Bro, no." Like,
No.
I know that there's automation services out there. All right, I get that. But I want my customers to get a reply from a human being, whether it's email
Yeah,
or whether it's a phone call, right? I'm like, you
yeah.
can't automate every aspect of your day, you
I
know?
agree 100%.
And it's like,
100%.
I mean, yeah, there are automation that you can apply because I think like, dude, a large majority of our day can be automated, but I never want to automate the customer or the carrier experience with my brokerage ever. I want them to
Yeah,
know that it's me or it's an actual person replying or handling that stuff in those moments because if you don't, then I think like that's one of the biggest complaints that a lot of customers have with people is it's like, A, who am I talking to here? Who's even replying in this moment? And B, like, is this going to be a new person in a couple of weeks? Is it going to be the next automated message? Like, how do you like, I just feel like you're just falling into the category of you're just like everybody else at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where you lose your competitive advantage, and you lose your touch when you're automating. Our competitive advantage is being able to problem solve, being able to deal with the customer up front, talk to them, seeing them, and giving that personal touch. 100%, I agree.
Yeah, I just look at it as, again, like you said, man, we're both younger guys, but we're both
Yeah,
from the old school. And,
yeah,
I just want I've just found this to be true in business. Frankly, this is the only thing I can confidently say I know about being an entrepreneur is this. When everybody says go to the right, turn to the left and sprint. Because that's
yeah,
where all the results are. That's where all the answers are. Everybody wants easy. And as Andy Frisella says, easy doesn't pay well.
yeah.
If you want to be like everybody else, you go down that path. I'm gonna choose this route, and I'm really, really effective at doing the opposite of what everybody wants. I think that's why I want to do this stuff for myself, Yusuf. At the end of the
No,
day, I don't like doing what everybody else does. I hate answering people. You know.
I agree. I agree. And the only thing that's changed on my behalf, see, I used to be the type of guy that would stand behind my desk all day long or my phone or whatever technology we had and respond to every single email and every single text and every single phone call right away or answer right away. And then, yeah, we did get caught. If you're going to automate, here's the thing. If you're going to automate, let it not be automation. Let it be, if you get to the point where you're too busy, that means you can afford to hire someone. And if you hire someone that can respond the way that you respond and deal with your customers the way that you deal with your customers, that's a completely different story, And I've begun to do that slowly just from the staffing people that we have that work with us. I've trained them to be like me. I've trained them, I try to be the one to always respond to my customer and always deal with things. But if I have to go away for a few days or I have something to do, I just know that someone competent is there to handle what I have to do. But it has to be a person. Can't be a computer.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. I think that
Yeah,
that's like because I look at it like this. It's the how much do you actually care about my business mentality that it comes from. And I feel like in today, at least with the generation of people that we're dealing with and working with, them knowing that you're there in dealing with situations is
yeah,
all that they're looking for in that moment. Because, dude, like I've been in this industry long enough, man. I've failed on loads. I've lost customers. I've had damaged freight before. I've had stolen loads before. I've had drivers go MIA before. I've had all that happen. All right. I
yeah.
don't like any of those situations, but guess what my customer loves? Me picking up the phone and calling them and letting them know what's going on. Me
100.
communicating effectively with them that that most people don't in those moments, because I think like that's the greatest separator that's out there is my them feeling how much their business means to me, and I
I
cannot
agree.
articulate that in any other way than picking up the phone or jumping on a plane, flying to their location, walking their docks with them or walking their yard with them, and talking to them and having them just actually feel to their core like, hey, you know what? I might not always be the best because I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes, but I care. All right. I care. And I will do everything in my power in those moments to try and rectify these situations.
No, I agree 100%. That we've had this conversation before, 100%. Picking up a phone, whether things are going good or things are going bad, and being able to just be there for your customer because a lot of times they just want to know and letting them know whether it's good or bad, you got to do it.
Yeah. I think it's more important to pick up the phone when it's going bad than when it's going
Yeah,
good. I
I
truly
agree.
feel
I agree.
those
No,
are
no news is good news. That's the old adage. No news is good news.
Yeah, I feel like that's honestly another I would say that's probably the most important other separator that's out there is most people run and hide when shit hits the fan.
I
Most
agree.
people like their phones don't work, their email doesn't work, anything else. I've just gotten to the point where I'm like, "Hey, I don't like making this call, but I'm making this call. This is what's going on right now. This is the situation. This is what we need to do to make sure that what kind of like what's going on." Because at the end of the day, customers just need to know what's going on so they can do their job. I think like
Yeah,
that's the biggest feedback piece outside of brokers are annoying from
yeah,
ship is this. don't take our ability to do our job away from us by
Yeah.
withholding information.
Well, let's just put it this way. If the shoe's on the other foot and they have a scheduled shipment that's supposed to go out, and you have your driver on his way to go pick up said shipment, but let's say they had something happen, and they weren't able to get the product ready, or forklift went down, or just a piece of machinery went down, and they're not able to ship the load out, and they didn't properly communicate it with you. You're gonna get upset. You worked hard. You send in a driver to go handle whatever you had to handle. So communication is so important on both sides and on all sides, and you just to keep the ball moving in the right direction. From step A to step Z, we all have to communicate better. And I think that's the biggest problem that people do, and that's the biggest problem I found with the people that I've hired is if you're not a good communicator, this isn't the right business for you. If you want to just sit behind a desk and you know push paper or do whatever, find something else to do because communication is probably the most important part of this job.
No, I would agree. I think like you need to like I would rather have a customer tell me like, dude, you tone it down. Like we're
Yeah.
good, you know? And
Yeah.
but I've never had one customer do that. I've never once had a customer say
Yeah.
you communicate too much. I've had a customer who got to the point where it's like, dude, just tell me when the driver's loaded and when the driver's offloaded. I don't need
Yeah.
to know everything in between. You've proven yourself at this point, like we're good. But I've
Yeah.
never, that was the only time I've ever had a customer say anything like, dude, we're going through it right now with a brand new customer of ours. We were awarded 17 shipments to be imported. And we're waiting on the vessel to arrive and all that stuff for the dray moves. And dude, we're just like, boom, we're communicating with the dray carrier, we're communicating with the freight forwarder, we're communicating with our customer, we're communicating with the receiver. And there's a track record of that, right? Like we're building all of that out because that's just what's required on it. Like I'm not waiting for anything to happen in these situations.
Absolutely.
I want to dominate. All right. Like at the end of the day, Yusuf, I want to dominate and I want to show my customers, like my goal is I want them to question, like, shit, are these guys really like this? Or is this just because this is the first time with them? And I want to deliver that on every single shipment. Cause my goal is after the first one, they're going to be like, damn, why aren't our other providers communicating like this? By our
Yeah.
fifth load with them, I want them to be like, why are we not giving these guys everything? By the 10th
Yeah.
load, I want them to not even remember who else they were working with but prior to us.
That that's a great way to look at things. That it really is, and I agree 100%. And when you do things the right way, and like I'll just put it for one example of one of our largest customers. When we started off with them, they weren't doing much volume. It was probably 10 loads a month, and we're like, okay, this is good, this is nice. But just based off of our performance and what we've done for them, they've been able to grow their business and give me basically all their business. And now they're up to like 30, 40 loads a month, so we just see it growing and growing and growing. And that's all based off of our service and what we've provided, and just putting the right drivers on our loads, putting the right, just doing things the right way. And business will grow. And, it's like planting a seed and watering the seed and just letting it flower. And it'll get there if you do it the right way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people need to it's simple what we need to do. It's just
Yeah.
it's not easy to apply it,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
it's one of those things where, because like, dude, I think a lot of it boils down to money in those moments, right? Like, hey, I want to make more money on this. It doesn't matter that this carrier did great for me. Like, I want to try and make more. And then like when that greed inevitably starts to come in, I think that's when people really back themselves in the corner. At least that's when I did in my past, man. Like I'm not above any of the behaviors that brokers are known for out there. I've done it
Yeah.
in the past. I've just learned from it. And
Yeah.
now I want that consistency, man. I will gladly give up short-term margin to make
Uh,
sure that the carrier's happy with the rate that they're getting to where they're like motivated to want to work with me more. My customers like, damn, you guys are just really good. And because like I just know long-term brokers make their money in volume. Very
yeah.
rarely do you make a lot of money on one shipment. You might pull that one rabbit out of your hat that the the customer, you just bail them out last minute, you find the right truck for it. But I want to work with the same trucking companies time and time again. Like, I want
I
to work with the same carriers. I want to work with the same customers. I just want to provide exceptional service to people. And I'm like, because like I'm like, dude, if I take care of my carriers, they're going to take care of my customers, and then my customers are going to take care of me. I think it's that closed loop.
100%. I agree 100%. And that's how you do it. Maintain good relationships on both sides, on the customer side, on the carrier side, and just keep it going. Like we've had situations where we've gotten comfortable, and there were times where we maybe didn't reduce some of our costs when the COVID prices started to come down, and we're like, oh, the customer's okay with it. The customer's okay with it. Then you get someone new quoting a load. I don't know how, but just someone going and, soliciting your customer, just stopping in and saying, hey, you're overpaying for your freight. We got complacent with charging our rates with what we've been doing for a long time, making money. It's consistent business. No one's ever asked us to lower our rates. And this has happened to me. And the other carrier, and then you're like, oh wait, this customer hasn't called me in a couple weeks. And you're like sitting back, like, why hasn't this customer called me in a couple weeks? Normally they're shipping X amount of freight, X amount of freight. You find out someone else went in there and said, you're overpaying on your freight. I could do it for X. And they never told you anything, and they gave this carrier a shot. Luckily, they only did one or two loads, and I call them. I said, "Hey, I've had a relationship with you," and I was completely honest and frank with them. I'm like, "I've had a relationship with you for over 5 years. I've never failed on anything. If I failed, you've known about it. You've never once asked me, for a price reduction, or hey, can we reevaluate our shipping costs? Hey, can we do this? Can we do that?" I just thought no news is good news. Let's just roll with what we got and continue to provide you the best service possible, which what we were doing. But someone else comes in, talks to someone else, cuts a rate, and then I just told him, I said, let's just always be able to have a conversation, even if it's something for you that's a hard conversation to have, price and money. This is at the end of the day, this is a business. And if you think you could save some money, ask me, and don't go shopping it.
Yeah. How do
Yeah.
you work on, and I know I want to be mindful of your time here, man. And dude,
Yeah, I
I
gotta run.
really, I
I'm
really
sorry.
appreciate, no, I
Yeah.
appreciate your time. I want to end with this because of what you brought up right there about business, the personal aspect of things. How do you remove that component from when you're building a relationship?
Yeah. Well, you start the relationship when the relationship's starting, it's all based off of, dollars and cents and numbers. But also you got to differentiate yourself and make it less about the money. Like before I was in transportation and in trucking, I actually sold cars for a long time,
Yeah.
and I did that for about 10 years. And you realize, and the psychology of people and the psychology of a customer, and I've read a lot about different psychologies of sellers and buyers and whatnot, and it really is all about the product. At the end of the day, it's about the product. And what's the product? At the end of the day, the product is your service. Okay. And trying to take away the money aspect of things from the equation and make it about the relationship, make it about what you could do for the customer, how you can make their lives easier, how you can streamline things, and try to divert price from things. But when price matters, and it does matter, you just got to have those conversations with your customer and be like, hey, if this is where you need to be at this current place, we can be there at this time, but that doesn't mean that we'll be there in 2 months from now or 3 months from now. It's a constant market that's constantly changing, and fuel prices are always changing, capacity is always changing, and you do everything you can to maintain the relationship based off of everything other than price and money.
Yeah. Nah, man, I
Yeah.
love it. Yusuf, thank
Yeah.
you so much. I'm looking forward to having you back on, man. I
Yeah.
really appreciate,
Anytime.
the couple of times that we've talked here, man. And
Absolutely.
how does anybody reach out to you though? If they have any questions about stuff, if they want
Call
to
me
hook something
anytime.
up.
You could call me anytime. You got my cell phone number. You can email me. You could text me. I'm a pretty available guy, and that's the thing. I always respond to people. You always got to be able to respond to people. And I look at you as a friend now, Chris. And I know we didn't really spend much time together at the last convention, but next time I see you, we'll
Yeah.
hang out.
Dude, absolutely, Yusuf. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, man. And hey, if you
Thank you.
guys made it this far in the episode, which I know you did, because this was
Yeah.
a ton of valuable information, and you guys aren't
Yeah.
subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.